Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Hi, this is Jeff Lim of Portable Intelligence, and you're listening to the New Warehouse Podcast. Today's safety tip is a reminder to perform a monthly safety check that should be performed by members of your Joint Health and Safety Committee. The check should include verifying that all policies are being followed, prior safety infractions have been corrected, maintenance programs are being followed, and the identification of any new dangerous situations. Doing this regularly not only supports the actual safety program, but also sends a clear message to everyone that safety is a priority and must be followed at all times.
With e-commerce off the charts, many small and growing warehouses are asking, how can I get ahead when my warehouse is barely keeping up? The answer is future-ready warehouse tech from Zebra Technologies. Warehouses can simplify and upgrade all processes, from automated inventory management to hands-free picking, with Zebra's tailored, scalable mobile solutions. They're simple and intuitive. There's never been a better time to upgrade for success with Zebra. How can your warehouse get ahead? The answer's in black and white. Get the answers at zebra.com/theanswer. That's zebra.com/theanswer.
Outdated and bulky, legacy scanning technology continues to drain warehouse efficiency. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible hardware solutions, like WorkHero from Rufus Labs. Utilizing WorkHero's efficiency-boosting wearable scanning technology, mobile device management, and labor management tools, warehouse managers will be able to easily access key performance metrics and improve operations. With their cutting-edge monthly subscription model, you're always provided with the latest barcode scanning wearables, productivity analytics software, on-site redundancies, and 24/7 global support. Superhumanly simple. Make your warehouse team superhuman with WorkHero. Go to www.getrufus.com to learn more and schedule your free demo. That's www.getrufus.com.
Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates and wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more. How do you create warehouse superheroes? The answer is simple. With visual voice scan solutions from ProCensus. With record demand and labor shortages, warehouses need more effective workers and lightning-fast onboarding. Visual voice scan solutions from ProCensus enable warehouse workers to achieve superhero performance with up to 20% improved productivity and up to 99% accuracy. Hands-free barcode scanners from ProGlove paired with wearable mobile computers is just the beginning. Improved mobile interfaces with reduced keystrokes, easy-to-read screens, custom keyboards, voice-enabled interface, and more can be realized with ease on the leading WMS platforms. Sound too good to be true? Let us show you with our one-of-a-kind virtual demo. Visit procensus.com to get started today. Again, that's procensus.com to get started.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I am joined by Jeff Lem. He is the president at Portable Intelligence, and Portable Intelligence is concerned with changing your WMS and making sure that your inventory is accurate and giving you better inventory visibility, which is incredibly important in the warehouse. So Jeff is going to tell us a little bit about his background, how he ended up getting to Portable Intelligence, and kind of what they do. And we're also going to have a little inventory talk, which is close to my heart because I've worked in inventory control for quite a long time in my career. Also, Jeff and I shared a panel together with our friend Sam Gupta of WBS Rocks recently, which you can find on LinkedIn, talking about warehousing and system architecture within the warehouse and a lot of different things as well. So I will certainly link to that on the website as well at thenewwarehouse.com. But Jeff, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great, Kevin. I'm really, really happy to be here, and your podcast is amazing. I love it. I think it's providing a great service to the industry. So just super excited to be here, and great. It's great time.
Wow. Thank you for those kind words. I definitely appreciate that. And it's good to be reconnecting with you as well. We just did the panel together last week when we're recording this. So it's good to get more one-on-one with you and learn more about what you're doing. So why don't you start off? Tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up founding what is now Portable Intelligence.
Sure. I didn't come into this industry the traditional means. I did not go to warehouse school, or I didn't, even work in a warehouse. I did work in a warehouse several summers, but educationally, I have a business background. I have an undergraduate degree and a postgraduate degree in business. I've also have a professional designation in materials management. It's a course that I took over several years, which taught me all things about warehousing. And that's where I really learned a lot of my knowledge about warehousing. But prior to that, I had a business that was in the barcoding integration company that sold all the hardware around printing, scanning, and transmitting barcodes. Through a lot of M&A activity, myself, along with my partners, grew the company to around $40 million in sales and 150 employees. But I wasn't happy. It was pretty frustrating dealing with all the number of employees. And quite frankly, our business was built around selling hardware. Yeah. The company had a little software group, but the software group was there just to help sell hardware. So basically, I approached my partners one day. This was about 5 years ago. And, I had two choices at the time: either retire or start something new. Yeah. Or as a fellow entrepreneur once said to me, I'm not done finishing my painting. So basically, I said, buy me out. And then I also want to take the software group with me. And as I mentioned, it was a small team of, 4 or 5 guys. Yeah. And basically it existed primarily to help us sell more barcoding hardware. And so that was 5 years ago. We've since grown about 500% since then. And we've created what I consider to be the next generation of warehouse management softwares.
Very interesting, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I'm curious on the first venture, how, not having really the background in warehousing, as you mentioned, and then, coming out with the business degree, how did you decide to focus on barcodes? Why barcodes?
I actually have a bit of a skill, or I found this out through one of my earlier jobs, that I was actually quite good at selling software. And, and systems in general. So when I was starting up the barcoding company, it was all around understanding process. And because I have an accounting background, it was easy to explain how scanning a barcode and what happened to it to affect and automate your process. So it was actually quite simple technology for me to wrap my head around. And plus, we also partnered with a company that basically taught us the ropes around barcoding 101. But we quickly learned how that business ran and basically grew it from there. And we started writing software, outsourced into contractors, et cetera, to actually write the software that integrated the hardware to people's systems. And we grew from there. So it was a lot of learning the hard way, what worked and what didn't work. Our very first project I remember winning was like, believe it or not, was a $1 million RFP that we saw the customer, who was the LCBO, which is the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, which at the time ran the largest liquor distribution facility in the world. Wow. And we won this crazy RFP, and we had to automate their warehouse and tie into conveyors, produce a picking system, in the what they call the non-conveyables, and as well as run conduit, run cabling, do the programming. At the time, you can imagine, was all on PCs, not very powerful PCs. And at the time, there wasn't SQL Server. There was just an Oracle databases that we had to deal with. So it was all very new. And we made it work. They ran it for over 12 years and supporting 600 stores a day, liquor stores, and over 150,000 cases were processed through our system over that period. So that's how I really learned the business, through that one project. But it was our ability to sell the concept, which at the time we only had really just 3 references, small references. Yeah. But we were the only guys that actually would say we can make this whole thing run on a PC. At the time, everybody was running on mainframes or mini computers or whatever. And we had the gumption to think that we could make it work on a PC. And we did. So as they say, the rest is history. And that's where we learned the barcoding business.
Very interesting. Yeah. I love the story there. And I love that, through the project, that's how you kind of learned the business. And I think, I can relate in that aspect because through my career in warehousing, also not formally trained in warehousing, but ended up in warehousing. And, through working with different companies and helping them from an internal perspective, start up new facilities and expand the distribution network, I've certainly learned a ton in that way too as well. So, getting on those types of projects, I think, is a huge thing to be able to learn more about the industry. So it's interesting that we can relate in that way. So from there, you switched from the hardware to the software with portable intelligence. So tell us a little bit about portable intelligence and what exactly it is you guys do. I think you mentioned earlier next generation WMS. So tell us a little bit about that.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Sure. As I said about the painting, right? Most WMSs are basically founded on 2 primary technologies, that being barcoding and the second one being wireless. Right? The 2 technologies are great for managing and tracking product or boxes, but they're not very good for tracking people. So as a result, you're going to see, it's not uncommon to see a lot of variability in production between warehouse workers, between a new guy and a more tenured worker. It's very hard to hold warehouse workers accountable because you just don't know when they started a task or finished it or actually, where they are in the facility at any time. A lot of standards in warehouses as a result are run largely by rules of thumb or experience. And probably warehouses are the last areas where there's not true, in my view, visibility of workers. You've got great visibility of product, but you don't have a lot of visibility of workers. So how can you manage your inventory where if you can't have visibility of your people as well? And that's where portable intelligence comes into play, in that we feel that by augmenting the existing technologies with things like AI, indoor positioning, and even vision systems, we can actually better track workers, certainly, hopefully not give them the impression that it's Big Brother, but actually guide and augment, or actually guide and help them do their job as if they were somebody with 10 years experience. So that's what we're doing at Portable Intelligence, is try to, take it to the next level and cover that last mile where you don't have visibility of your labor force. And if you don't have visibility of labor force, it's going to be really hard to control or better control the inventories, because those people are typically pushing the boxes around in most warehouses.
Right, exactly. So it's pretty interesting concept there about increasing the visibility. And you said something in there that really kind of piqued my interest. You said having someone new be able to operate in the same capacity as someone that's been there 10 years, but you're guiding them in a sense. So talk to me a little bit about what do you mean by that you're guiding them? How is the system kind of guiding them in that way?
Sure. I mean, if you follow a worker who's been there 10 years, he'll take a pick list, read through it, and he's not going to pick it in order of the line. He's going to pick it in order of which he's going to build the most stable pallet. He's going to put the heaviest stuff on the bottom, or the bulkiest stuff, and he knows where everything is.
Right.
You know, these guys are running around the facility. They know where all the boxes are, etc. So instead of going up and down the aisles in a serpentine fashion or whatever, he's going to go diagonal. He's going to go all sorts of different directions. And at the end of the day, he's going to build a very stable pallet that won't require much, moving around. It can be easily shrink wrapped and then loaded on a truck without very little alterations, right? Whereas if you have a new person, right? I've seen pallets get as high as 7 feet. Try fitting that in a truck. Yeah. And of course it's unstable. So having the ability to track these workers and monitor how they work, in essence, will allow us to build the ideal prototype warehouse workers, modeled after your own best people. So that's the foundational piece. And in order to do that, you can't rely on barcodes and wireless to be able to build this simulation or idea as to what the ideal worker looks like in your particular facility. So that's where we came up with the idea of tracking them internally, an indoor GPS type technology, and then AI, which is going to do the machine learning around the details around the order in which he went to pick certain products, as well as the start and stop time, so we can properly establish standards around actually how quickly they're picking and moving items, so that when we do create the days, we call it the mission, which is comprised of the day's orders to ship and pick, then we allocate the appropriate number of resources based on those standards. And now we can track it much better. So now we're controlling the labor inputs. We're also understanding what we're going to get out, and that's the day's mission. And then from there, the next step is to dynamically reallocate tasks. So for example, if I'm picking and you're picking, Kevin, and I'm starting to fall behind in my pick activities, and the truck for my orders has just pulled up, then what should happen is that the system should automatically allocate some of my remaining picks to you if you're not busy, or let's say you're now standby labor, which a lot of companies have, by the way. That work would automatically allocate to you or the standby person to help me finish those picks, so we don't miss the truck and we don't ship short to that particular customer. And to have that happen dynamically in support of the mission is what Portable Intelligence is all about building.
It's very interesting, and I love that it's going after, because I think in a sense, when you look at warehousing, some of the things that you touched on, that building the pallet in a specific way because they're familiar with the product and these different types of things. You can utilize the data in a sense to a certain extent when you look at really being on top of slotting of your inventory and product positioning, but at the same time, there are still these like nuances in between that people that are only so familiar with the product that have been there 10 years, couple years, really understand. And it's hard to be able to mimic that from a data perspective. So I love the approach that you're taking in basically watching this person that's experienced, knows what they're doing, is incredibly familiar with the product and the mix and all the different things that they do within the process, and then mimicking that in the system wise, so people can then follow the same types of movements and patterns and develop those standards like you mentioned. So it's pretty interesting. And it said something about the GPS tracking, and so you mentioned they're not trying to be like Big Brother, which is a good thing, right? But so the GPS tracking, is that now on some type of device on the individual, or how does that portion work?
Yeah, it's not true GPS per se.
Okay.
It uses these RFID type technologies like ultra wideband and Bluetooth beacons, and depending on the level of granularity you want. So, we're right now developing with ultra wideband, which is going to give us basically an accuracy of within a foot accuracy. So that's usually suitable for most pick operations, unless of course you're doing, flow racking and you've got very tight, shelving or whatever. But for most people, it's more than adequate. So we'll be able to basically track people as they move through the facility down to within a foot, so that when they arrive at a location, for example, and we know they're supposed to say pick at A101, we automatically enter A101 into the screen. So into your standard data collection device that you've seen from the likes of Honeywell and Zebra, we'll enter A101 in there and automatically bring up the part they're supposed to pick. So all they're doing now is just confirming the pick with actually by tapping the screen or a swipe of the screen that they've done it. So now we're not only eliminating the scanning, that they've indicated that they're at that location, or eliminating the need to enter the part number, unless of course they're picking up trace, like a serial number, then that will require a scan of sorts, right, of that particular trace information. So basically we're reducing a lot of the scanning that is associated with traditional picking, and we'll also be able to get more accurate data on when a person started and finished a particular pick.
Very interesting. I definitely love the technology. I mean, it's an incredibly smart approach to setting up the warehouse and making sure the warehouse is flowing the proper way. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and I think you're looking at it in a different way than I've kind of heard of before. So we talked about visibility of the people, right? And you mentioned inventory visibility in there as well. And I saw on the website, kind of like very loud in the middle, that inventory visible. You guys are helping people to have better inventory visibility. So when we talk about inventory visibility, I'm curious, from your perspective, portable intelligence perspective, what is inventory visibility, and why do you think companies are losing sight of their inventory and not having the visibility that they need to?
Yeah, and it goes to doing what I consider to be the basics, Kevin. I mean, visibility, of course, is that you look up the system. You go into your ERP or your WMS and you enter in part ABC. Right, it shows 100 pieces in shelf A101. Right, so if you go to A101 and you see 100 pieces of ABC, then that's good inventory visibility in my books. Right, so the whole idea is that you've got accuracy at both the quantity and location level, and that's what, in my view, visibility means, as well as accuracy. So now you have confidence in your inventory. So what that means is that purchasing doesn't have to run back there and check to see if they have 100 pieces of ABC. They know they have 100 pieces of ABC, so that when they talk to their vendors, and their vendors are trying to say, hey, Joe, if you buy another 10 extra cases, I'll flip you a discount. But he knows that he doesn't have to worry about having to order buffer, because what he sees is what he knows he has. So you're not ordering too much, and as you know, tying up money in inventory. Right. And then, of course, that extends to production, right? I mean, if everybody knows that they have 100 pieces of ABC and they need, that many pieces to make 100 pieces of finished good, then they can promise their customer that they'll get 100 of these pieces as a finished good. And that extends right down to picking and shipping as well. So it has a real ripple effect. And for that reason, you can't have inventory visibility limited to just one area, like raw materials. You got to have it in finished goods. You got to have it in WIP, or work in progress. So it becomes a mantra, or it becomes a thing that you need to have throughout your facility.
Yeah, and I think it's a huge part, and like you said, it's important that other parties can have visibility to the inventory and what's in stock, like you mentioned, the procurement team or sales team, things of that nature. I think it's incredibly important, and one of the things along with the visibility is making sure that what people are seeing in the system as your inventory is actually what is physically there, right? So it goes kind of to inventory accuracy in a sense. And so what do you think, and I have my own thoughts on this. Obviously, I haven't been in inventory a long time, but why do you think inventory accuracy is so important?
Yeah, I mean, it gives people confidence in the system, first of all, right? I mean, we had a client where the manager would lose an hour or two each day going to the back to make sure the guys did proper put away, right? We have order entry people going down into the freezer area to check if they had that quantity of AAA meat before they actually allowed a salesperson to sell it to a customer, right? So that confidence level is really critical to making a company run smoothly, and then it's all about time savings. So at the end of the day, if people don't have confidence in the numbers, then you can't really transact as smoothly or as efficiently as you can. Everything is rough. It's like trying to pull a Jeep through the mud, when it's stuck. So, I can't say enough about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's incredibly important. I mean, from my perspective, the inventory is like the backbone of the operation. But, I think you have a great point there about, the kind of the integrity of the operation based on, the inventory being accurate. And like you mentioned, your example of the order entry person having to go down in the freezer to verify that the pieces are actually there, or the meat or whatever you said it was is actually there. And that's kind of crazy, right? Because that's not really their job. Like, they should not be doing that. And it's such a time crunch, and it's such a delay in making the sale as well. And it's a potential loss of sale maybe too, with a delay. So it's incredibly important to have that accuracy. And I think, to that point, when you slip on the accuracy and you don't focus on having good inventory accuracy and making sure that, your inventory numbers are solid, you start to lose the trust of the other people in the company. And that's when you get the people that want to come down and verify. And, you have people, and they send an email to the warehouse and they say, do you actually have this stock? And you're like, yeah, it's there. It's in the location. You're like, yeah, but can you double check? And, you start to lose the credibility and the trust within the organization. And then, like you said, it slows things down. It hurts the processes. It keeps the company and operation from really flowing. So incredibly important. So I'm curious, from your perspective, and obviously you've seen some different companies and different situations, I'm sure, as you've implemented your systems in there. And what are some of the things that you see can cause inventory accuracy to be low and not so great?
Yeah, it's really a function. I'm not doing the four basics in my view. And these basics are pretty standard across any industry. The first is recording your transfers. And, recording the fact that you move something from A to B. I mean, as simple as it sounds, it's not. People will write it down somewhere, keep it in their head, or walk over to a terminal 2 hours later. Yeah. Right. I've even seen, and I'm sure you have, I've seen clipboards on racking where people will record that they took this out, right, and initial it. But, tell me how often someone's going to get off their truck and write it on a clipboard. Not really that often. Yeah. The second thing is putaways. You receive product coming in. Do they do the proper put away? I mean, often ERP systems are set up to do an automated put away, and the put away is done to what they would call its primary location. Yeah. But more often than not, the warehouse guy drives back there. For whatever reason, the primary location is full. It could have a water leakage from the ceiling or whatever, and now they're moving everything to a new location. So the product doesn't get put away in its primary location. Right. That's another disconnect, right? And that also applies to goods coming off production line. Again, they're not put away to its proper locations as it's supposed to be designated. And and then returns, and I'm not talking about, returns from your suppliers, but when you bring product to the production floor, you bring it to, say, the Ford pick area, it doesn't get returned back to stock. So for whatever reason, the transfer doesn't get recorded, and everybody thinks they don't have inventory, where in actuality, the product is actually sitting on the floor. And I've actually gone through plants where there's lots of materials sitting under machines, under CNC machines, under cutting machines. And I go, where are all these offcuts? He goes, oh, those are just spare parts or extra pieces that we cut. And we'll get around to returning it, but often enough they don't. And it becomes that production person's private inventory. So that doesn't get recorded. And the last thing, and this is what everybody typically talks about wanting to do and not doing, is cycle counts or not doing it well. And so it's a question of of frequency and constructing or creating the cycle counts that make sense for your particular facility. So those four things, when not done, will typically result in your inventory going sideways in a big way, to the point where, people are doing all these additional audits on their own before they make any big decisions or buying decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have some great points there. Certainly things that I've seen in my experience and, I've experienced. I love that you said that somebody has their own personal little inventory there. I've certainly seen that before where you have like people who are shipping or something and the extra pieces, they kind of like squirrel away and, they're like, oh, well, I might need it. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't show that it's like right here. It shows somewhere else in the warehouse. Somebody's going to be looking for it. So it's very important to put that stuff away and clean that stuff up. And the last point you made about cycle counting, I mean, is a huge thing. And I've been in many head-butting matches, I guess, where people try to cut cycle counting in a sense because they want to focus and use the resources on something else, shipping, something that's more visible, right? But I think the cycle counting and the inventory, team is a core thing. It may be like a silent team in a sense. You're not seeing like directly like, oh, they didn't ship out, thousands of lines today or something like that. But they are core to the team because they help to ensure through the counts and kind of the auditing and root causing why are things missing and finding missing product. They allow things to keep flowing because if you think about it, you're so focused on picking and shipping. Well, what happens when your picker goes and they're supposed to pick 8 pieces and there's only 6 in the bin physically, and now the picker stops because they're wondering, what should I do? And then someone's like, oh, well, send it to shipping and we'll fix it later. And then the shipper gets it and the shipper goes, oh, I don't have enough pieces. What should I do? And then maybe they grab a different picker, say, oh, go give me 2 pieces. And then the other picker goes and says, oh, it's not there. And then somebody else, it's a whole domino effect. So it's really, really important to make sure that core is solid and that you're keeping up with it. So always I say, cycle counting, make sure you don't try and pull those resources out and cut them, try and keep them there so they can help with those things. So with the issues that you see, and now, portable intelligence kind of being the system to help alleviate some of these things, how exactly does portable intelligence kind of help these operations to improve their inventory accuracy and address some of these like common issues that you see?
Yeah, it's no surprise when I tell people that the vast majority of companies, at least in the SMB space, don't have a warehouse management system, don't have barcoding. And it doesn't surprise me anymore because it's not the technology that's hard. It's the deployment. It's the change management. It's making people change their processes, have confidence in the system. And the numbers that they see on the screen, some people are wed to writing things down, to their paperwork, to just the safety of knowing that, however broken our process is, we still want to hang on to it. Yeah. So what we do at Portable Intelligence is we tell people that it's a journey, right? But let's go after the low-hanging fruit, and we try to target, quick 90-day, if possible, even 60-day returns. So the first big win may be able to do just an inventory count. Yeah. Just do a quick cycle count somewhere. The second part of that will be to say, let's do raw material issuing to work orders, right? Or just do inventory transfers, something that is basic. But in order to get to that stage where you're scanning and move things, you need to have barcodes on your product. You need to put barcodes on your rack locations, right? And that stops people from moving ahead with barcode because they don't know how to do it. They don't know anything about, how to stack barcodes on rack and to represent different levels of the rack. They don't know what kind of symbology they use in order to, make a fairly tight barcode product-wise. The ideal length of a barcode for a product is between 5 and 7 characters, right? And you should avoid things like an S or 5 because they look very similar, right? And you should have a part number that is a bit descriptive. So if you were to read it, you can tell almost immediately what it is. So a lot of companies don't follow that. They'll have a part number that almost looks like a description, 1/4 inch gasket, flat flange or something like that. That's the actual part number. You can't barcode that. So they're now faced with the hurdle of, creating new sets of part numbers that can fit on a barcode, and then putting barcoding on racking. I mean, that's hard. And then changing their processes on top of that. So for that reason, it's a real impediment to people to put in barcoding solutions to manage the inventory. But what we do is we figured it out. We've done, hundreds of these sites. I've done, well over 100 WMS implementations, and we figured it out, how to help people do labeling, how to help people do, get barcodes on racking, as well as show them, what are some of the things you need to do from a process viewpoint to get people in line with trying to, adopt to the new way of doing things. So it's a process, and there's a lot of little tips and tricks that we do to keep the project working. And at the end of the 60 or 90 days, we have, a bit of a W on the board, not a huge one, but a W that gets the project, some recognition, some success, and gets people more on board. As they say, failure is an orphan, right? Where success has many fathers.
That's a good one. I like that. So, I mean, it's very interesting. And I think, I think when you go into these operations and you see things like this, like no barcoding and, no cycle counting and stuff like this, there's a lot of like improvements to be made. And like you mentioned, maybe not like a big W right away, but certainly you put these little W's and it adds up to a very big W over time. So it's really interesting to hear what you guys are doing with the portable intelligence. I think the approach you're taking is super smart, and I'm very interested to see and hear more about it in the future as well. But Jeff, I want to thank you for coming on the show and kind of giving us some insights into inventory and your background as well as portable intelligence. So if people are interested in learning more about portable intelligence, how can they do that?
Well, there's a couple ways. You can just email us at info@portable-intelligence.com, or they can reach out to me direct at jlem@portable-intelligence.com. It's lots of ways to get a hold of us, or just do a general search on the website, again, for portable-intelligence.com.
All right, great. And we'll put that information at thenewwarehouse.com as well, so people can easily access it. So, Jeff, thank you again for coming on the show, and thank you for your time.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.